Kaluna and I became pretty close, expecting to die together when the power or supplies ran out. I'd never shared a closeness with another being before. There were many issues with intimacy and customs between different species to worry about. The Tians differed from me and were emotionally distant, so they had no appeal to me. In the later cycles on Tian Prime, I developed a contempt for them. Kaluna was more like me, except taller. A perfect contrast to a Tian. The Ori taught me about friendship, to have something like a proper family. From this perilous adventure in an escape pod with Kaluna, I also got to experience closeness with a female. I had no clues about physical or genetic compatibility between human and Ori. It dissuaded me from doing anything more, even though events had placed us together in a small space. I was glad how things had progressed and content to enjoy our time together before our impending death. I could learn more about cultural differences just by talking with Kaluna. She was easy to talk with. Her notion of a life debt, or the short time we had left, made her keen to answer even my dumbest questions. If I had been more experienced, I would have figured that our shared experiences in facing death together, our closeness in the intimate setting, had forged a bond between us. I just knew I was glad to spend my last days with Kaluna, and she with me. But death didn't greet us so soon. Unknown to us, a cloaked probe within range had picked up the distress call from our escape pod and relayed it to a nearby vessel of an ancient race known as the Baglogi. It was one of a number that monitored this section of the galaxy. The AI of the Baglogi vessel changed course to intercept the escape pod, based on 3 criteria. 1. The Baglogi vessel was in the area with a chance of intercepting the escape pod before its occupants ran out of air. 2. Our escape pod was far into deep space. We had no hope of rescue by any other vessels. 3. A bioscan showed 2 occupants, both alive, and 1 life sign closely matched to that of a Baglogi. The 3rd item triggered a response. The AI of the Baglogi vessel was currently running a protocol that put a high value on possible Baglogi lives. A chance it could be a living Baglogi was reason enough to decide. So a while later, our escape pod found itself within a shuttle bay of the same Baglogi vessel, with a suitable atmosphere, gravity, light, and temperature established. Inside our escape pod, the control panel woke us up with an alert that there was a change outside. I could also feel we now had gravity. For the first time in days, my body pressed into my seat. Things were not floating around inside. With cautious optimism, I activated the display to show that we were no longer in deep space, but within what appeared to be the hold of a larger ship. The walls and ceiling were a metallic gray, with no visible markings or insignia. "What do we do now?" I asked Kaluna. "I think it's safe to assume they're not pirates, or they'd have used us for target practice. It's probably safe to get out," said Kaluna. "I agree. The timing couldn't have been better. We're running low on food and water," I said. After verifying it was indeed safe to exit, I opened the hatch. We both climbed wearily out of the escape pod and sank to the deck. For a while we remained there. Since being in space for many days, the lack of artificial gravity in the escape pod made us weak. There was always an artificial gravity in bigger vessels, so muscles and bones didn't atrophy, and everything stayed more or less where you put them. An escape pod has just the survival essentials, which meant you did without. No one was there to welcome us. After some rest, we moved towards what appeared to be a large door. It wasn't open, and I looked for some kind of door control. I worried this might be a pirate vessel. I nervously kept alert and looked around for trouble. Finally, Kaluna shouted out loud in Ori, "Hello! Is there someone there?" Perhaps in response to her words, the door opened. A computer voice in Ori said, "Please enter this way to decontamination." I realized our rescuers would not risk contamination to meet us in person until they have checked us out as safe. I should have realized. The voice repeated itself, and we stepped cautiously through that doorway. The door closed behind us. This room was smaller than the hold where we left our escape pod. The walls were a lighter shade of gray. The lighting was brighter in here too. Spacefaring races usually have various kinds of decontamination to protect from things such as viruses and parasites being passed on by visitors. In that light, it seemed only reasonable to proceed. The voice asked us to disrobe and enter a decontamination shower, which we did. On spaceships, there's little modesty. The shower included scanners that identified and eliminated any remaining contamination. After days in the escape pod, the shower was quite refreshing. After we finished, we put on new clothing that was provided. Once dressed, the voice directed us to proceed to another doorway. Kaluna and I kept close, holding hands for comfort, as we followed the directions given. We'd faced the possibility of death together and survived. We had become accustomed to leaning on each other, drawing strength from our connection. That we were out of the void, out of our escape pod, gave us hope. The computer voice in the familiar Ori language was an excellent sign, but our recent experience in the escape pod left us exhausted. I hadn't spoken since we got out of the escape pod, and Kaluna had only said hello. We were still in shock. This next room was a kind of waiting area. It included soft lighting, very inviting-looking sofas, a table and chairs. One wall had a small galley equipped with a food dispenser. A second door opened to a washroom. I suddenly felt relieved. We're saved! At least we were not dying today. They wouldn't go to this trouble if they planned to kill us later. I looked at Kaluna and finally smiled. She smiled back. I could tell she also felt relieved. Feeling safe is a basic need for all beings. We lost it, then got it back. The adrenaline and survival instincts switch off inside both of us at this point. We both moved to and collapsed onto a sofa together and promptly fell into a deep sleep. The stress and exhaustion finally caught up to us. Sensors in the room monitored us while we slept. The life support systems filtered and monitored the air for airborne viruses and other such nasties. Fortunately, the results turned out negative, and no further decontamination action was necessary.